Adding a first floor bathroom. So this video is for homeowners, renovators, builders, and home inspectors. So I've been a home inspector for 26 years. I'm a former high school construction teacher, and we also have a home inspection school online called globalinspectionschool.com. Um, so older homes often don't have first floor bathrooms. So closets can easily be converted to a bathroom if they're big enough. You can do the same thing with a breakfast nook. You can turn that into a bathroom, and you might even be able to squeeze in a pantry in that same area. So we're going to look at half and full bath projects that we've done in the past. Talk about toilets, sinks, and tubs. About how to tie into existing plumbing, and let's see, baths. The fact that baths may also need a vent, a light, a window, and some electrical outlets. So let's look at some projects that we've done in the past. Like I said, I'm a former high school construction teacher. That's me on the left there, just so you know who you're dealing with. And that's a student, and that's a house we built. We built the house from the ground up. We did almost everything ourselves. So this is actually a graphic I got from one of our customers. They had in a house that we were did an inspection on, and they had this posted on the closet door, and I was like, oh, they were showing potential buyers that they could put a bathroom in under the stairway. So I thought, oh, that's a great idea. So I took a picture of it, stole it from them. So this could be a cramped space, but it could be done. In a lot of cases, you can squeeze that half bath into that old house where you don't have a half bath or any kind of bath on the first floor. So if you're going to do this under the stairs, you have to have headroom. We're going to see this later in a project I did, but you have to have headroom, hopefully for a grown man to stand there at the toilet and relieve himself. This graphic shows a woman or maybe a guy with long hair, but you got to have that headroom there. So planning, planning, planning. Draw a floor plan. The layout of a bathroom matters. It might seem like a simple task to put a tiny little bathroom in, but it can get a little complicated as we will see. We're going to look at some typical layouts of bathrooms in a cramped space. You might want to buy fixtures and look at fixtures ahead of time to make sure they're going to fit into this little cramped space that you're going to do, this bathroom you're going to do. So like I said, we have an inspection business. We inspect homes and commercial buildings. And this is a commercial building we inspected. And look at this bad planning here. I think this was a miscommunication. So, this is a public restroom where more than one person, this is a men's bathroom because it's got a urinal, right? So there could be a guy in here using the toilet, and there could be a guy standing at the urinal. So they had the door swing the wrong way. I took measurements when we were there. If they'd had the door swing inward, if the hinge had been over here on this side and swung inward, it would have cleared the toilet. So I think this was a miscommunication. So this door shouldn't have swung out. Swinging doors in a bathroom is a big deal, believe it or not. Here's another project we did, a big commercial building. I'd like to see two guys use these two urinals at the same time. So, oh well. And here's another one. Isn't that interesting? I don't know how this happened. This is crazy. That's one of the things I enjoy about the business, crazy stuff we see. All right, let's look at a full bath renovation, how the floor plan was important. So that's me when I was much younger. My hair is white now, if you can see me down here. This was 25 years ago. So this is the before. This is the planning. You're planning your bathroom where it's important. So this is the dining room behind us here. I think that's my dog's two eyeballs right there glowing in the light. Um, so we renovated this house and fixed it up. We lived there and then we sold it. We're serial renovators too. I mean house flippers. So we do a lot of that stuff. So you walk in the door here and there was a bathtub right at the entry door. And then this is the wall, separates the hallway from the bathroom. And there was about a foot of space between the bathroom stall, the shower stall that they built, and this wall. There's about, I can't tell here, but there's about a foot gap there. And then the sink was right across from the tub, which gave very little room to walk, as we will see here. There's another shot. So this is my wife taking another picture of me from the hallway where this is that bathroom stall wall, and then there's a wall right here's the door frame. So there's like a foot between this wall and this wall. And I think the reason they did that is because there was a clothes chute there that dropped into the basement. And there was, you can see the little black mark, tick mark. There's a black square every 16 inches on a tape measure, and you'll see that was 16 inches right there between the sink and the tub. And then the toilet is right behind my elbow there. So this was a bad layout, very bad layout. So we decided we're going to renovate this bathroom anyway, so we decided to change the entire floor plan, and I'll show you what I did. First, I gutted it. The toilet's gone, sink's gone, and now I'm taking out that shower stall. You can see I knocked a hole in that wall. We're taking it out. Um, that's my first, I still got that saw. That's a Milwaukee sawzall. I still got, that thing is 35 years old and it still works great. All right, so what we did was, in case you didn't know, a typical bathroom, full bath, is 60 inches across, at least 60 inches across, which is 5 feet. So that's how long a bathtub is, guys. A bathtub is 5 feet long, 60 inches. So this room was designed for that bathtub against this back exterior wall. You can see there's a window behind me. So this is the way this bathroom should have been done. I don't know why in God's name they did it the way they did it, but I'm sure they had a reason. It just wasn't a good reason. So we switched everything around. I moved all the plumbing, put the tub against the back wall, used good Durarock materials. We're going to talk about materials in this video. So I used that Durarock cement board inside the wet area. You can see outside of the tub, I used green board. I did use a little green board at the top here. You can see that green board, but it's cement board up to that line. And I extended a little bit, you know, I needed to patch the wall in, so we put a little green board up there, which is not going to get wet. So there's the finished product. So sink used to be here, toilet was back here, and then the tub was right here. So we changed everything totally around. So this is a good layout. 60 inches across, 5 feet for a typical bathtub. Another tip is if you have a window in your shower area, make a curtain for it. So you just put up a curtain rod and then take a regular shower curtain and cut it, the length and the width, the length and the width. Cut them off and just make it fit the window. A nice plastic shower curtain. They make nice ones. You can cut it off. No one will ever notice. And it protects the window. I did take the wooden window out here because you don't want a wooden window in your shower stall. And I put a vinyl in, but I still put a curtain up here. It's not in yet. But I put a curtain to protect that window. You don't want, water can run down in this windowsill here area and rot this wall out in this right in here. We see that a lot in the inspection business. So if you're an inspector, by the way, you could sometimes see this from the basement. If you look up under the basement, from the basement area and look up, you can see that rot. If you run the water in here when you're doing your inspection, and they don't have a curtain on there, I would actually run some water on that windowsill and see if water comes out at the bottom. So when you go into the basement to finish your inspection, you'll see the water. All right, let's look at some typical layouts of half baths since that's really the purpose of this video. So here's a typical layout in a 6x8 bathroom. So you got the door in the middle with a sink on one wall, toilet on the other, real common. Both the, I call them appliances, both the toilet and the sink on one wall. This is a 4x5, typical, fits in a 4x5 room. Now you can have a swinging door, but don't forget you can also do a pocket door or sliding door. Those barn doors are popular now, and I hate those things. You can see through the gaps and stuff. They're dumb in my opinion. But a nice pocket door. We have a pocket door in our bathroom like this now. All right, let's talk about some of the pitfalls of bathroom design. So you can't put the electric in the shower stall like they did here. And this was a new house. This was built in the 90s, and you know, they got a permit and everything. Um, and you can't put the switch or a plug that close to the shower. So keep that in mind. Check your local codes when you're thinking about things like that. When you're laying out your design. windows, doors, and vents. You will definitely have to have a door for privacy, right? And you may be required to have a window or a vent in your bathroom. So if you're going to pull a permit, I'm not the permit police. So if you're going to pull a permit, make sure you check your local codes. Heat, you might need heat. This is a bathroom where they had a wall hung sink hanging on the wall here, and then they decided to put in a vanity base to store stuff under, and they covered up half the vent. So that's something we would write up in an inspection report and cut off half your heat, but at least you got some heat. If a half bath is on an exterior wall, most places in cold climates, like here, we're in Michigan, you will be required to have heat in there if the half bath is on an exterior wall. If it doesn't have an exterior wall, like it's off the entry hall and there's no exterior walls, you got a kitchen on one side, maybe a room on the other side, then you may not have to have heat in there. Check your local codes again. All right, let's look at a bathroom I put under a stairway like we saw in the original drawings when we started. So see the sloped ceiling? So I realized when I got my toilet in there and I got my sink base, and I realized that I would not be able to stand at the toilet and relieve myself, and I needed to bump this wall out so I'd have the headroom. So let's look at what I did. I bumped the wall out. See, I built a little knee wall, and it gave me a chase, a nice space behind there that I could run some heat. So ran the heat up. I got nice, it's at about 30 inches of space between the sink base and the tub, unlike the bathroom that I renovated, where I changed everything around. So you need good walking room there. So there's what I'm talking about. We had to bump this wall out right here to get the headroom needed to stand at the toilet. And we ran heat up inside that wall cavity there. And many times you also have the plumbing stack, the the soil pipe run up through the wall and then out the roof, through the attic and through the roof. And the purpose of that is to let air into the system. You got to have air coming into your system so that it will flow correctly. Okay. I always use the example of shotgunning a beer when you're in school, when you're a youngster. So you poke that hole in the beer can and it flows much better into your mouth and you get drunker faster. So that's the purpose of the soil pipe, to get you drunker faster. Um, so this is that project again. So I ended up tearing that whole wall out right there. And I did that because this wasn't a real 2x4 wall. It was made out of 2x2s. It was an old farmhouse. And so I needed a real wall made out of 2x4s because I wanted my plumbing, your shower valve is going in this wall right here. So you need room for the shower valve. So it wouldn't fit. So I tore the whole wall out. I fixed all this electrical wire too. So this is a picture of the walls torn out. So this is all old stuff. This is back before everybody had a video camera on their phone. This says 2001 here. That seems about right. So here's after. This is it. See, I ran the heat up. Remember, I bumped this wall out right here. I ran the heat up in there behind the chase. And then that gap there between the tub area and this wall, I made that, gave me a nice little area for storing towels and toilet paper and things. So that worked out pretty good. Have a plan before you start is the point. So there's that wall I tore out. This is before I tore it out. There's that doorway. And there's after. You can see my switch is outside the shower area. Now this is 24 years ago, so codes may have changed. Again, check your local codes, but this switch may now have to be even farther away from the water. Did a nice tile job. I did all that tile, it's good. I hate doing tile work, but it looks good when it's done. There's a side by side before and after, or during and after, I should say. And that was under a stairway, so that was a big wide stairway. You can see how wide it was there. And these pictures are stretched a little bit to make them fit my slideshow, but it's not quite as wide as it looks, but came out nice. So I got a full bath under a stairway, big white stairway. Now, when you do your tile work, it's important. There's probably good videos on this on YouTube, but just to emphasize the point, you want to smear the grout on all of your cement board. You use cement board, you use the right material, but he just spotted the grout and it came off. So when I do it, I always put the grout all over the cement board and I back butter, they call it. I back butter my tile. So I put a full coat of, it's not mastic, it's grout. So I put it in all the cement board and on all of the back of the tile. And then you hit it a few times. They make a rubber float or mallet, whatever you want to call it, and you tap it on there really good. And you get really, really good adhesion. I've never had tile pop off on me like this. Again, planning. So you don't want a little 1-inch piece of tile. This is a house we inspected. You don't want a little 1-inch piece of tile right at the doorway. He didn't do a threshold either. I think it's nice to do a threshold. But if he would have started with half a tile against the rear wall, he wouldn't have ended up with this little sliver here. You don't want to do that. All right, let's talk about kitchens and bathrooms now. So um, this is in a lot of old houses here in the Detroit area. You have a kitchen and then there'd be a breakfast nook. And they're really tiny rooms. They're, I don't know, 6 by 8 or 6, 6 by 8. And this is plenty of room to put in a bathroom, at least a half bath, and then maybe even a pantry area. So let's take a look at that. And then we'll look at a project I did. This is my sketch. So same kitchen. This is the breakfast nook over here. And a lot of times a breakfast nook will have a window on that rear window that looks into the backyard typically. So I sketched in the toilet here and the sink on the opposite side, and then a door that swung inward. But don't forget, you could do a sliding door here too, because you're going to build this wall, right? You're dividing that breakfast nook up. So toilet or a bathroom, and then this is going to be a pantry. So these lines here represent shelves from floor to ceiling, shelves from floor to ceiling. And like I said, you got the window on the back. So the code may require that you have a window or a vent. So you're all set on your window if you already got one there. So keep that in mind. And this is a really good plan. I suggest this to a lot of people where we inspect buildings for people that are renovating old houses. That's one. And this will improve the value of your house too. So if you're a flipper, an investor, a serial flipper like me, we move every few years. We buy a little junky house and fix it up and live there for a couple of years and sell it so we don't have to pay any income tax on the money. So that's a good plan. All right, let's look at a project I actually did involving this. So this is the kitchen over here, right? This is the breakfast nook. You can see they've got that beautiful foil wallpaper from the 60s or 70s. See that wallpaper? And an old lady lived here, and I think she was kind of losing her marbles a little bit. So an old lady, they moved the basement stairs are over here, so she didn't want to go in the basement to do her laundry anymore. So she had this stack unit here in her breakfast nook. And these rooms, these breakfast nooks, hardly ever get used. So she wasn't using hers. She used it for her laundry. And then over this way and opposite was a huge dining room. And so you really need the breakfast nook. And this is a hallway going to the back door and the basement stairs, right? So this is a door that led to the landing at the top of the stairs. And then this door over here, there's a long closet here that goes all the way back to this wall, this exterior wall. There's a window. You can see that window's open right there behind the dryer. So there's a long room right there. So I was going to put the bathroom here, do a full bath, but I was like, I want a bigger kitchen. So what we did is we removed this wall right here and removed all this up here. This was not a load-bearing wall. And even if it was, you could still take it out. It's just a little bit more work. And we instead of putting the bathroom in here, we put it in this long closet behind the breakfast nook. So I'll show you what I did here. There's the same area. There's that same window swung open. There's that wall that's gone now. This is that hall. It was a hallway leading to the back door right there, and then the basement stairs go down right over here. And this is like a knick-knack window here. I can't back up in these slides for some reason, but this wasn't a window. It was just like a knick-knack shelf. But when I tore it out, it looks into that hallway. I keep calling it hallway. That's a closet. Hallway was over here. That's the closet behind the breakfast nook. Okay. All right. So let's look at another picture of this project. Here I've done some drywall work. I did all this, by the way. I did the electrical work. I used to be a apprentice electrician, so I kind of know what I'm doing. I removed, there was a fuse panel here in the last picture. I removed that and moved it. Looks pretty good. There's our stove. I had to move that stove every day because we'd cook in there at night. Work all day and cook all night. And there's the finished product. All nice and neat. I put that floor in, the paint, the plaster, the electrical work. I did all that. I enjoy this kind of work, if you can't tell. And so now let's see what's the next slide. Is it the bathroom? Yep. Okay. So here's that closet behind there's that window. Remember that looked into the from the kitchen area, breakfast nook into the closet here. So there it is before I sealed it off. Got all my junk in there while I was working on the kitchen. There's during doing the rough in plumbing and things. Blue boxes for electrical, plumbing stack for air. Here's the finished product. So I put the toilet against the rear wall, not, I didn't want I didn't want them switched around the other way because it'd be hard to walk past the toilet because it sticks out so far. But the sink isn't nearly as deep, so you put the toilet against the back wall, right? A little bit of planning. And this closet also happened to have a window in it. I'm not sure why, but it did. So we're all set on the window, and then I ran some heat in there. It's in the toe kick underneath the sink there. Toe kick heat is pretty common in bathrooms. So there's before, during, and after. All right. Let's talk about fixtures a little bit in your little bathroom. Um, this is a still shot of a video I did, which is also on this YouTube channel, about a bathroom under some stairs. It was a closet and they converted it to a bathroom. So you can buy these little corner sinks if you want. They were pretty expensive, but they sell them. So if you need a corner sink, you can get them if you don't have the room for a regular sink. This one stuck out, this is a different sink, but this one stuck out 12.5 inches. They make them even smaller than this. I think I've seen some about 8 inches. And of course the faucet would be much smaller to drop the water in the sink, and sometimes even put the faucet on the sides here, because they're wider than they are deep. So you get the room to walk past them. They're almost like what you see in a boat, so you see these bathrooms in boats, they got these tiny little fixtures. They're like that. Here's something you probably never saw before. So this is a sink. There's a little handle there to turn the water on. It's on top of the toilet tank. So this guy had run hot water to the toilet so that he have hot water to wash his hands, and then hot water would also fill the toilet bowl. But it really, if you just flush the toilet, you're not going to use a lot of hot water if that's what you're thinking. It just, these new toilets are, what are they, 1.3 or 1.6 gallons? So they don't use a lot of water, so it's not going to run up your gas bill, okay? It's just not going to do it. So this is a good idea if you've got a really, really small room and you want a toilet and a sink in there. That will work. Here's a goofy picture. I had to put this in. Okay, don't do this. This is an example of what not to do. Don't do that, okay? All right. This is again, I had to put this picture on. This is a poor man's bidet. So if you don't know what a bidet is, you can Google it. But it's basically a toilet that washes your rear end. And this is a regular toilet that they've converted to a bidet. So you got your water supply coming through the wall there, and then this line feeds the toilet water, so when you flush it, it refills. And they put a plumbing T in here. T is TEE, and they put a shower head. They connected a shower head to it so that they can wash their rear end after they do a number two. So I have always called that the poor man's bidet. Good idea. Plumbing. Let's talk about some of the plumbing issues you're going to run into. Like I said, you need air in your system. Remember I talked about shotgunning the beer? Okay, so if you can't run a soil pipe, a stack to get air in, you can do something called an AAV, air admittance valve. A lot of people call them Studer valves, which is a brand. Like, hand me a Kleenex. Really, you want a tissue. Kleenex is a brand name, right? Studer is a brand name. The proper name is AAV, air admittance valve. And they have to be accessible. So people usually put them right under the sink. And that's where this one is. There's another AAV, but they ran the stack up into the attic, and then they didn't want to go through the roof for whatever reason, and so they put an AAV in the attic. So it's still accessible, so that's fine in most places. Check your local codes, right? Home inspectors are not code enforcement, so whenever people ask me about code, I go, well, here's what I think, but check with the person that actually inspects around here. They will know. Do what they say. Rough in for the toilet. So that's the toilet flange connected to the floor. So this gets screwed to the floor. There's those screw holes here. And you screw that down to the floor. And you should be at least 12 inches off the wall. It's like if this is the back of the toilet where the tank goes, you want to be at least 12 inches off. Some people do 12 and a half or 13 inches. You need that room. Okay, so this is a bathtub where they cut a floor joist in half, and so that destroys the structural integrity of the flooring system. So you can do this, but you have to patch it, and I'll show you how to patch it here. So this is the bathtub. There's the trap for the bathtub. Hot water, cold water. Looks like that gray poly butylene pipe, right? Which has got some issues. If you have gray pipe like that in your house, if it says PB on it anywhere, polybutylene, um, there was a big class action lawsuit. It cracks at the elbows usually and can flood your house, so you want to get rid of that stuff if you can. But anyway, let's talk about how to fix this floor joist. Here's what you do. So I drew the last picture had a bathtub there in the center, but let's just say it was a toilet. So they had to cut the joist, this joist, which used to go all the way across, right? They had to cut it so you get the toilet flange in there. So you cut it, and then you run another joist this way, and another one on the other side, same way, and then it gets nailed here. You could put joist hangers on it if you want, but code only requires that you nail it with like a 16 penny nail or 16D nail, they call them. It gets attached here and here and here and here and here and here and here. So then it's okay. So then now this floor joist that you cut is not going to sag because it's supported. So that's the idea. This is a typical setup. Here's the toilet flange screwed to the floor. Had to cut the floor joist, and then it runs over to the sewer line, 3-inch line typically. A little clean out there. This pipe goes to the sink. Vent must be usually at least 1.5 inches. Check your local codes. There's another graphic, the same sort of thing. So joist. Hopefully it'll lay out and you won't have to cut the joist and your toilet flange will be right in between them. But sometimes you got to cut it. Oh, I put our logo in there for Global Inspector School Certification Association. So we can certify you to become a home inspector if you want. We're a licensed school in the state of Michigan. All right, let's talk about some more plumbing issues. So this is old cast iron pipe, and I busted this out with a sledgehammer. This is that same house where I added the bathroom under the stairs and renovated the first floor bathroom. Remember, it had a bad layout, and I moved the bathtub. This is the same house. So I smashed that cast iron pipe out. I used a sledgehammer, but I'll show you a little trick here. That's the same area. See all those pieces there? A lot of crud. I actually found a big hair pick inside the slab when I busted it apart, and it had been in there for decades, I think. A big plastic hair pick was stuck in there. Here's how you cut it. Oh, I forgot to mention the last one. When you attach your cast iron to your PVC pipe, you want to use what's called a Fernco or a boot. That's how you attach them. Fernco, 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 yeah, Fernco. That's a brand name again. Rubber boot is probably the proper name. But you can cut that cast iron pipe. You don't have to smash it out like I did with the sledgehammer. You can rent this at Home Depot for, and it's pretty cheap. I think it was like 15 bucks when I rented this, but this was, about a decade ago. And you just wrap it around the cast iron pipe and you tighten the snob here and it just snaps a nice straight line. I think that's the cut I did right there. See how straight that is? And then, oh, there's a fern coat right there. You can see I attached the cast iron pipe to PVC pipe and there's a fern coat connecting the old and the new. So that's what you want to use, one of those rubber boots. And then there's a strap here and here to tighten it down. It makes a good seal. There's no pressure in a sewer line, so it don't have to be super, super tight, like in where you got 60 pounds of water pressure inside your hot and cold water lines. So that is that's a sump pump line I was replacing on one of the houses that we owned. So so this is the bathtub line in that same house I did. See how that's like over half um, crud plugged up ish. Look at that scuzz in there. Oh my God. And that comes off the bathtub. So the only thing going down the bathtub is like, if you shave your legs, some hair, some spit, and whatever else you do in the bathtub there, that's all stuck in there. And this house is about 50 years old. So that's 50 years of buildup. So that's what happens. Let me give you a tip here. This happens a lot in the laundry line in your house. If you got like a typical house where you got a kitchen on the first floor, then a laundry right below it in the basement, this is what happens to the line. And it's food, right? If you got a garbage disposal, grease, if you pour grease down your drain, don't do that. Then the laundry discharge line from the washing machine has a lot of lint and hair in it. Human hair is very strong, and pet hair if you got pets. And it clogs up the line like this. And then the plumber comes over and tells you, oh, your line's collapsed. We've got to bust up the floor and redo it. It'll be $6,000. Really, I've run into this several times. It's this sludge. So this is above the floor, but I'm talking about below the floor in your house where like I said, the kitchen and the laundry combine. You get this kind of buildup, and it really just needs to be hydrojetted. And you can hydrojet it yourself if you want, or you can hire it out. It costs about $1,000 in the Detroit area. But if you have a power washer, you can hydrojet it yourself. You buy the hydrojetting equipment on Amazon. I bought one for $79 and jetted my own. So that's a tip. I've run into this situation many times over a couple decades where plumbers are trying to rip off people and tell them their sewer lines collapse when it's really just sludged up like this. All right, let's talk about water pipe. Most plumbers prefer PEX, P-E-X, PEX. This is what they call CPVC. I like this pipe. I've used it a lot in the past because you don't really need any special tools, any expensive tools to work with it. It's a lot like PVC. This is called CPVC. And then the white, it's yellow, and then the white pipe is PVC. The only special tool you need to work with it that I like to have is this ratchet cutter that goes in your tool belt, and you can be up on a ladder and cut this pipe. You don't have to get down. Otherwise, you can just cut it with a circular saw or a jigsaw or sawzall, whatever. So I have liked working with this pipe for a long time. The average life of this pipe is 60 to 70 years, which is the same as PEX. But I have read that this pipe can become brittle and will sometimes crack. Um, I've had houses where I've repiped it, 15 years ago, no problems. So here's that PVC pipe again. So let's plumbing math here. Um, this is a half-inch pipe, half-inch diameter. This is 3/4 inch pipe. The 3/4 inch pipe carries twice as much water as a half-inch pipe. Google it if you don't believe me. So when you're plumbing a house, when you come off your main water supply, so say it's cold or hot, you use 3/4 inch pipe, right? Then you branch off with half-inch pipe to your toilet, your sink, and your bathtub. So if you want to go to the bathtub, you branch off of this 3/4 inch pipe with half-inch pipe. If you want to go to the sink, you branch off of this 3/4 inch pipe again over to the sink. Same with the toilet. You always come off this main branch, this 3/4 inch branch, with the half-inch branch to get proper water flow. Here's what it looks like. I made this graphic with Chat GPT. That is the best 20 bucks a month I ever spent in my life. I just told it what I wanted. I wanted half-inch pipe coming off a 3/4 inch pipe. They showed it with a compression. That's called a compression fitting there, and it's copper. So half-inch pipe, 3/4 inch pipe. So it goes to the main, over to the toilet, main, over to the sink, main, over to the tub. Okay. You don't branch off the half-inch. You only branch off the 3/4 inch. Okay. Emphasize that. Checking my notes here. All right, I think that about covers it. All right, let's see the next slide here. We're almost done, folks. Stay with me. Okay, I like to use PVC pipe, but I don't like the fittings, okay? The valves and things. So this is CPVC pipe, but I use the brass fittings, and that's a gate valve, I guess. I would never use a gate valve today. I would use a quarter turn ball valve. These are a thing of the past. Quarter turn ball valve is the new thing. Much more, you can shut the water off and on faster with a quarter turn ball valve. When you got water gushing out somewhere, you don't want to have to turn this thing 15 times to shut the water off. Quarter inch ball valve, one flick of the wrist, done. So again, you will need, just to reiterate and summarize here a little bit, you'll need some electric in your bathroom. You need a light at least, and maybe a plug. In old houses, you don't usually have a plug and a half bath. New houses have them. So I would, if you're adding a bath, I would put a plug in there. And it'll have to be a GFI plug like that one. See, it's got the test and the reset button. It should be grounded. A GFI plug will work without a ground, but if you can ground it, ground it. So GFI plugs monitor the balance between the hot and the neutral. In case you didn't know, the hot is the small slit, the neutral is the big slit, and the GFI, which is inside of here, monitors the balance between the hot and the neutral. And if it falls out of balance, I think 3 to 5 milliamps, it trips it. So you don't need a ground for it to work. This third hole down here is for the ground if you have a house with a grounded system. Okay. The plumber actually told me that. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, we like to end our videos with a little laugh. So this is a house we inspected. 5 stars. We'll poop here again. Would poop here again. This one I did not understand. You can see the toilet over here. There's the toilet paper. You are extraordinary. I'm not sure why they put that in the bathroom, but they did. Okay, whatever. Don't forget the wipe. So there's a story here. Like I said, we inspect homes and commercial building. And this was in a brain injury facility. So people that had been in horrific accidents and had brain injuries would come here to, learn how to tie their shoes and count money and things like that. Pour a cup of coffee. They had to learn things all over. And so they had this sign in the bathroom. Don't forget to wipe. I got a kick out of that. All right, again, Global Inspector Certification Association. If you want to become a home inspector, we could train you to do that. I hope this video will help you with your project, whether you're doing a half bath or a full bath. If you have any questions, put that in the comments, and I try to answer every inquiry that I get. Pretty busy, but I look at these every day, and I will answer you. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm Matt Fletcher, Detroit, Michigan. Thank you.